And good evening and welcome to Inside the Bubble here on KARE 11 Plus. We're happy you're joining us for week number 4 of our Minnesota High School Hockey Highlight Show. I'm Matt Harrington alongside Brandon Spratt. And Brandon, we had another exciting week of action, and well, we're in full swing here now, I'd say.
Absolutely. The season is in full swing. We're between the holiday periods where things get really, really busy. And we had our first boys hockey night in Minnesota as well last night.
We did indeed. We're going to start rolling some of the highlights here. We'll start things out as we go to the Eveleth Hippodrome for Moose Lake and Rockridge. The Rebels and the Wolverines, Moose Lake coming in at number 11 in last week's rankings as they take on the Wolverines. We picked this one up late in the first. The shot from Katie Metzer gets deflected in front by Sandra Ribich. It's 1-0 Rockridge. We pick it up in the second now. And check this out. Beautiful feed to the left side of the goal. That gets put home by Megan Hattenberger. 2-0 Rebels. A few minutes later, Wolverines not going away. Beautiful finish there by Natalie Bergman. That gives them some life. We go to the third. Moose Lake looking to get some insurance, and Katie Metzer again gets a fortunate bounce off the defender's stick. That makes it 3-1 as Moose Lake hangs on to win 3-1. 5th win of the year for the Rebels.
The Battle of Apple Valley between the Eagles and the Lightning. This is in the first period. Eastview, look at that great feed across to Lauren Spiegel on the one-timer. Lightning take the lead over a top 11 opponent. But this is late in the first period. Marie Moran on the breakaway and a nice backhand finish. Apple Valley ties it at 1 just before the first intermission. Now in the second, Eastview getting bodies to the front, and Sari Cords is able to jam that one in. Eastview back in front 2-1. Check this one out from Michaela Moran. Great hands and a beauty of a backhand finish off the back bar there to tie the game at 2. Now in the third, though, it's again Eastview on the power play, and Lauren Spiegel nets her second. Eastview up 3-2. But again, Apple Valley with a response. This is a sweet finish from Michaela Moran, who has her second, and it was late into the third when Sister Marie, that is knocked wide by the goaltender, but Marie sticks with it and finishes it off. 2 goals apiece for the Moran sisters in a 4-3 win over Eastview.
Top 5 matchup in girls AA. Edina Holy Family in a West Metro battle. Edina on the power play here in a great save, or rather Uma Cornier, a nice save to keep this game scoreless here in the first period. Now we go to Edina on the power play early on in the second period. And keep an eye on Holy Family goaltender Sedona Blair making a beautiful save through traffic to keep this game scoreless in this one. We go now into the next set of action here as it's the shot from Tori Anderson. Great play to put it home there by Hannah Halverson. That made it 1-0, a power play goal for the Hornets. Third period we go. 1-0 Edina. Holy Family looking to equalize. The shot from Valentini gets deflected by Maddie Helmstetter, and the Fire tie it up 1-1. As we still have a lot of action to cover in this game. Check out this opportunity in front. Diving effort from Blair to keep this game 1-1. She was absolutely terrific in this game. We go to overtime now. Holy Family trying to win the game here on the power play. It's a shot. Uma Cornier has other plans. Makes the save to keep it at 1-1. Once again, check out Uma Cornier in goal for Edina. Holy Family trying to, again, win the game here. And watch this. Backdoor feed. Cornier denies that opportunity, and a terrific job there. About 10 seconds later, her Hornets racing the other way, and Lauren Zawoyski with the shot. She gets her own rebound, and that's the game-winning goal in overtime. Second year in a row that Lauren Zawoyski has scored the OT winner against the Holy Family Fire, and the Hornets go on to win this big top 5 showdown. 2-1. That's now 5 consecutive wins for Edina. Holy Family, though, has only allowed 3 goals this year.
Moorhead and Minnetonka out at Pagel. Moorhead coming off a huge win on Friday night against Wyzetta, but it's the Spuds here on the power play. Olivia Dronin with the chance. Layla Hemp fights it off, but Dronin gets a follow-up opportunity. That one squeaks through, and the Spuds lead early. This was Military Appreciation Day, by the way, out at Pagel, so you see the camo sweaters for both teams. There's Moorhead goaltender Olivia Crescent turning aside a look from Molly Ryan as she makes a nice save. Later in the second, Crescent out of her goal. This is a tough one here. Spuds turn it over behind the net, and Molly Ryan capitalizes. She finishes in the blue paint 1-1 the score. But Crescent had a really strong game. This in overtime. She made 39 saves against the top 5 skippers. Here's a big one out front. Again, Molly Ryan in the center of a lot of action in this game. But Crescent with a big save. We take it later in overtime, though. Ava Lindsay gets the chance out front. Crescent flags that one down. Another chance, but it's Grace Sadura on the doorstep. A player with the flair for the dramatics as she grabs the M and celebrates a 2-1 Minnetonka win.
South Suburban action here is the Rosemount Irish taking on the Lakeville South Cougars. Scoreless first period, so we pick it up in the second, and the Cougars strike first here. Hannah Fowler buries it for the go-ahead goal. Cougars up 1-0. Later in the second now, Rosemont trying to tie it up, and Anna Shandorf gets it to squeak through. We're all knotted up at one apiece. 26 seconds later, Jessa Snips gives the Irish their first lead of the game as she cleans up the garbage in front. Lakeville South now with the 5-on-3, and they take full advantage of it here. Lily Hunts keeps it low for the goal, and we're tied once again. Cougars coming the other way now, and check out this move from Josie Grossman. Oh, that was gross indeed. Absolutely beautiful. Now Lakeville South coming the other way. They would add the empty netter to go in front 4-2, but not quite over yet in the dying seconds. The Audrey Hansen show here as she gets the tying goal, or not the tying goal. That would get them within 1, but it's too little, too late. Cougars win by 1.
Behind every world-class athlete, there's a team who takes extra care to support them. At Affinity Plus, we take extra care with all your banking goals, from checking accounts to credit cards. Our biggest victory? Helping you win in the ways that matter most. Affinity Plus.
Welcome back to Inside the Bubble. We turn our attention now to the boys' highlights this week, and we start as Cloquet Esco Carleton visits Hibbing Chisholm at the Hibbing Memorial Arena. Pick this one up in the first period. Chance for Hibbing Chisholm on the break. A good centering feed, and Broden Fawcett with the finish on the pass from Keegan Fink. 1-0 Hibbing Chisholm. Then a rebound just trickles in. Alex Kazel the goal. Cloquet Esco Carleton ties it at 1. But into overtime, it's Bo Freider who gets 2 whacks at it and finishes it off. Hibbing Chisholm the win, 2-1 in overtime.
We go now to a Section 3 AA matchup, St. Thomas Academy and Eastview. No score in the first period, so we pick it up here in the second, and check out this dangalicious goal from Tommy Cronin. Cadets lead 1-0. Cadets now moving the other way, and Eastview goalie Jace Sfarin comes way out to try and get the puck, but Tommy Cronin has an easy goal, his second of the game. The Cadets would add, of course, an empty netter from Jordan Tashney. They remain perfect on the season at 3-0. They also win the game 3-0.
Top 5 Class A battle as Matamidi visits East Grand Forks on Friday night. This is Brock Schultz jamming away out front. He finishes it off, a big early goal, and East Grand Forks leads 1-0. Into the second period we go, and this is Johnny Grove with the chance. It's laying there in the blue paint, and Grove finishes it off. First minute of the second period, 1-1. Then this is a power play chance for Matamidi, and Charlie Draghi on the rush finishes that off, 2-1. East Grand Forks, though, would have an answer later in the second. They're also on the power play, comes to the line, and Sam Frost through traffic. Goaltender didn't see it until it was too late. East Grand Forks ties it at 2. We go later into the second. This off a face-off. Puck's going to come out front. A good feed, and Johnny Grove has 2. Matamidi leads it 3-2. And just a couple minutes later, again, Matamidi. These goals all look pretty similar as Mott gets some skaters to the front. This time it's Corey Bomert with the finish. 4-2 Matamidi leads. They would go on to win this one by a score of 6-3.
We go now to the Champions Cup here in Eden Prairie. Cretin-Derham Hall taking on Eden Prairie. Cretin in the offensive zone early, and great work here sticking with it. As check out Nate Chorlton right there, finds the back of the net. The freshman giving the Raiders the early lead here in the first period. Later in the first now, Raiders looking to go up 2-0. And Eden Prairie goaltender Isaiah Paulnock, a great sliding save to deny an opportunity. This one remains at 1-0. Still in the first. Eagles looking to tie it the other way. A new starting goaltender for the Raiders, Leo Miller. A nice save here to keep the Raiders up 1-0 in this game. We go to the second period now, about midway through. And the shot here from Tate Block is going to get tipped in front by Cole Satterdahlin for the goal. And we are all tied up here in Eden Prairie at one apiece. Into the third we go. Eden Prairie looking to take their first lead of the game. And once again, another great save from Leo Miller to keep this game at 1-1. This is the final minute of regulation now, and Leo Miller going to get bailed out by the post here. That keeps this game at 1-1, and as a result, we go to overtime in this great game. Onslaught of shots continuing in the extra session. Leo Miller, another big save here on the blocker to keep this one tied up at 1. We go now to under 5 minutes to play in overtime, and here's your game-winning goal. Nate Charlton, the freshman, scores both goals for the Raiders. They win a thriller in overtime to pick up their first win of the season. Meanwhile, for Eden Prairie, second straight year with an 0-2 start.
Big non-conference battle between Rogers and Lakeville South on Saturday. This is in the first 90 seconds of the game. Rogers gets a little bit careless with the puck. They turn it over, and Will Corton on the backhand finishes it off. Lakeville South off to a flying start in this one. Check out this goal, though. What skill from Parker Deshane. Top shelf. We're tied at 1 about midway through the first. And then late in the first period, final couple of minutes, this is Rogers with it in the offensive zone. Lakeville South fails to clear the puck. It bounces around. Nice feed to the back door. Sam Rinaldo gets a couple whacks at it and finishes it off. Rogers would go on to win this one 3-1. Matt Lohman, an empty net goal. And you'll have to tune in later in the show to see how this affects our AA KARE 11 Top 11.
A fun one indeed there, Brandon. We go to the St. Louis Park Rec Center West Metro battle. Edina and Benilde St. Margaret's. The Hornets 0-3 to start the year, but you wouldn't know it the way they started this game. Jackson Nevers opening the scoring for Edina to make it 1-0 with 10:22 remaining in the first period. Hornets now later in the first, 5-on-3 man advantage, and Robbie Cowan beats McElroy, the goaltender, through the 5-hole. Hornets lead 2-0 here with 8:55 to go in the first, plenty of time. Just over 10 minutes now to play in the second period. John Halverson streaking in down the far side. He tucks it home. Hornets now have a comfortable 3-goal lead less than halfway through this game. This is the first time the Hornets have scored 3 all year. The Red Knights not going away, though. Ben Norris cleans up the chaos in front of the net. Red Knights on the board late in the second to make it a 3-1 game. Now under 12 minutes to play in regulation. The Red Knights on the attack, and Anderson going to make it a 1-goal game now as the rec center is rocking if it wasn't already in this game. That would be the final goal, though, of the game as Edina holds on to win this one 3-2.
Your college experience begins with your dream. Your time at St. Cloud State will uniquely be your own, but your journey will be guided by our community. Be you. Be bold. Be a Husky.
It's time now for our St. Cloud State University Player Spotlight. This week we go over to Eden Prairie and catch up with senior defenseman Ryan Koering. He's a 3-year varsity player for the Eagles and, of course, a multi-sport athlete as well. His brother Nick and him are teammates for the first time since they were mites. As the only senior, of course, on this Eden Prairie team, he's been relied on heavily for leadership. The Colorado College commit has caught the attention of plenty of NHL scouts, and his calm demeanor plays out on the ice in a steady and secure way. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Actually, I went to Little Twigs camp. Twigs was running it. My mom made me put on the skates. First day, I came off the ice bawling my eyes out. And so she thought hockey wasn't for me, but then we went back, we tried it again. My dad set up the rink in the backyard, and from there, I just fell in love with the game.
Oh, he's been amazing. He's really stepped up, and not surprising from what we know of him in his past, but he's been tremendous, and he's setting a really good tone along with Teddy Townsend, captains, and the guys are getting along great. We've got a really good, deep sophomore class that's kind of come in new this year, and those guys have kind of welcomed them with open arms, and Ryan's the catalyst behind that for sure.
I think it's just kind of like the friendships you get from it. I feel like unlike a lot of sports, like hockey, you got to be a tight-knit group. I mean, hanging out with the boys every day at the rink, and I mean, especially being in Minnesota, being able to play outside, it's awesome.
He's kind of, I wouldn't say he's soft-spoken, but he's not the loudest guy in the room, but he's definitely talking, and I think imprinting his, I think a little bit of his personality and calmness on the team, which is nice. He's kind of a cool, calm customer back there. And he doesn't kind of get caught in any of the, we had 6 scrimmages, and every now and then stuff in scrimmages, you get a little bit of the BS after the whistle and stuff like that. And he just kind of, he plays it tough between the whistles, but stays above it, and he's here to play hockey. So I think he's good on the ice, but he's also great off the ice. Like I said, kind of setting that tone in the locker room that we're all part of the, one team. Yeah, well, they get along great. It's fun. Nick, he's a little bit of a different player, but he's got some similarities to Ryan's game. But the other day we like to break up forward and D a lot, and and Gertis and Mo and I were running the D stuff, and I was just kind of talking to guys in line. And I said, "Is this the first time you've ever been on his team?" He's like, "Yeah, since Mites." So I said, "What do you think?" He's like, "Oh, it's so fun." And then I've just watched him in certain drills. Like the other day, we were doing a drill where they're working on surrounding the puck and doing a quick up, and he was kind of showing his brother a little different way to go at it, this angle, to help him in the drill and give him a better passing angle. So it's kind of cool seeing him put his arm around him and help him that way too. But it's neat.
It's a little weird because it's been so long. I mean, last time we played together was Mites, and that's like 10 years ago. So, it's really exciting. I was really happy for him to make the team. He's worked so hard, and he deserves it. But yeah, I mean, it's a little weird seeing. I mean, usually I'm going to his games at another rink, and now he's hopping in the car and coming with me to the rink, which is different, but it's awesome. And my parents were stoked about it. So.
I think it's great. I wish every kid could play at least 2. I mean, in the old days, you could play 3 more easily, and most guys play at least 2, some 3. Now it's hard to play even 2. But our athletes that play 2, or our players that play 2, it's great. And we have a couple football players, and they add just a little different element to the team, and players that are good at other sports. I think it's good for a leadership thing, because I think they can see how other kids lead in other sports. And you're not always the best kid in both sports, so sometimes you learn to accept a different role. And so I think when you come back to your team and you're the leader, you might, I think, have a little more compassion or empathy for what some kids on your team are struggling through, or what roles they're trying to fill too. So it's great.
I mean, the X, we had a COVID year, so it wasn't packed, which I want to experience it when it's packed and the whole school can come out. And it's just like nothing's like raising the trophy. So definitely something I want to go back and do. And it was special to do it with that group. We were a tight-knit group, like a family, and I want to try to recreate that.
For this week's Coach's Corner, Pete Wagner had a chance to catch up with Rosemount boys head coach Ricky Saintey Jr. Coach Saintey is the epitome of community hockey. He grew up in the community, played for his dad, and teaches and coaches there now. Let's take a look at the man behind the upcoming Hockey Fights Cancer event.
I got my dream job. Let's just start with that. This is something when I was in high school, coming through here, I had a couple different coaches, and I know that they always gave 100% when they were here, and I want to give that same thing back to our kids. I want to give them the same opportunities that I had, whether it be lifting, whether it be on ice practice, whether it be just life lesson stuff. I think that's super important. I think that it's special to be here because Rosemount's a pretty special place. I got my dream teaching job. I got my dream coaching job. I'm fortunate enough to coach with my old man, which is quite fun. Not many people get to do that. And I got a pretty dang good staff, which a guy I played college hockey with, a guy who thinks, a bunch of guys who think it at the high level and challenge me. So all in all, I'm pretty fortunate to be where I'm at. I'm blessed, and I absolutely love it.
But you probably didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm gonna be a coach, right? I'm just gonna go do this. You probably evolved to it, right? And if so, how did you get to there to wanting to be a coach?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that I saw growing up is what my dad was able to do for me. He put me in a lot of uncomfortable situations, a lot of situations that required adversity, and through those, you could see there's little moments that I learned later in life that definitely impacted me. I'll tell you right now, though, that being with him is amazing because he holds me to the highest expectation. He challenges me in every way possible. I'm, like I said, lucky to have him around me as much as possible.
If you want to talk about the epitome of community-based hockey, look no further than here with your group and you as the leader. He talked about how important that is. People
in Minnesota don't know how lucky we are sometimes. I think they take it for granted, but I think this is a pretty special place. When you look at Rosemount in general, it's a top 5-10 youth program-wise as far as numbers go. We have kids in our building nonstop. We're renting out a different rink in the area just to try to get by with another rink. We have the pond. It's one of those things that we're trying to use all our resources, but the place that we have here with these kids, this youth program, it's pretty special. And I think when these kids come through this locker room, they start to recognize some of the things that they did as kids and how they can give back to more and more to the youth that we have. And when we win and kids can come in the locker room. And yeah, so about 2 years ago, a guy by the name of Matt Fine reached out with Hockey Fights Cancer, connected with me and said, hey, we'd love you to be a part of our board. And so I kind of sit in as a volunteer board member, get to meetings when I can with what's going on, but it's one of those things that reached out, I was like, absolutely, I want to give back. And I have a cousin who's near and dear to me who's fighting it right now, dealing with the Cap Strong situation, who special human in this community, in this town, love to pieces, love their family to pieces. Parker, as a player who you'll see in our advertisements too that we're talking about, fantastic kid. I know the family was able to teach with mom, but what it looks like is we met with Matt, and Matt connected, and we said, let's make this big, let's make this great. And I know we had some different areas because the mental health thing is a piece too. We're trying to get involved with the Hockey Fights Cancer thing's a great thing, so we went forward with it. Last year we had jerseys made by KARE, fantastic. Both teams got to wear jerseys this year again. KARE is going to provide them for Coach Taylor and his boys, and we'll provide for us and our boys, and we're going to play a game for special people that deserve to be fought for. And so I'm excited for that.
Are there ways that funds can be raised? When you come to the rink, is there an online, is there a web presence? How can people that are watching this be a part of it?
So I'm not your biggest technology guy working on it, but the QR code is going to be a big one, I think. Huge piece. I know it's on our school right now, so there's that piece. If you wander the website, there's some ways to connect there as well. There's some brochures and piece of paper on the building that have some information on it. They can always reach out and ask too. I'll gladly give out my phone number and say, hey, let's connect, because the bigger we can make this for these people that are fighting it, let's do it.
Careful.
It's all over Minnesota hockey. You're good to go.
Okay, all right.
you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you just never know. So, well, that's great stuff, and we're looking forward to doing some great stuff with you guys.
Thank you to you and what you guys do. Pretty special
to
have you be a part of this. We're excited for what you're doing as well, so thank you.
Thank you. Let's have some fun Saturday night, December 10th.
Welcome back to Inside the Bubble. It's time to run through our power rankings for the week and our KARE 11 top 11s. Matt, we start on the Class A girls, and we have Warroad staying at the top. They did pick up a loss this week, though, against Benilde St. Margaret's. A few movers in Holy Angels and Crookston into the top four, yet to lose. Proctor Hermantown and South St. Paul fall respectively after losses to AA teams, and Moose Lake at 6-1 up at number 9.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Warroad loss to Benilde St. Margaret's. That's their first loss in quite some time. But Crookston, they made a big jump last week, and they're making a big jump here again. They do have that one tie to Blaine that was a scoreless tie in that game. But again, another big leap for the Pirates. Proctor Hermantown, you mentioned, another loss. They are down, but still in the top 5. Moose Lake 6-1. They're doing their part to stay in the top 11. So I think we're starting to figure things out a little bit more here in girls Class A.
All right, now we roll into the AA rankings, and you will see Benilde St. Margaret's after that big win over Warroad. They debut at 9. Centennial Spring Lake Park is in at 10. Just a couple of switches this week. Edina and Holy Family swap places after the Hornets defeat the Fire. Maple Grove is actually the only undefeated team in our top 11. It's a little bit more parity maybe than we expected in girls hockey in the early season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the past few seasons we've seen kind of Andover, Edina, Minnetonka as sort of those clear front runners. But this year you see Gentry Academy at number 1 and Benilde St. Margaret's, of course, at number 9. I think well deserving of that ranking after their big win over Warroad, just the one loss. And, of course, that was to Andover on opening night. I think they've improved a lot since then. So they're the team that stands out to me this week.
Absolutely. And, of course, we had the battle of the number 1s, Gentry and Warroads, on Saturday. Warroad coming out on top. That's where Gentry's loss comes from. But with the head-to-head over Andover, makes sense to keep the Stars at number 1. Let's roll into the boys.
We will roll into the boys indeed. Brandon Hermantown staying at number 1. Actually, the top 3 stays the same this week. Moving up a spot to number 4 is the Providence Academy Lions. They had a big 11-3 win over Wadena Deer Creek this weekend. Orono up to 5. And boy, we have a lot of newcomers this week, Brandon. Duluth Denfeld at number 7, Detroit Lakes at 8, Two Rivers at number 10, and the Waconia Wildcats at number 11. A lot of movement here this week.
Yeah, and the biggest movers are Orono, who are up 5 spots from 10 to 5 after a couple big wins. I think that's deserved for the Spartans. And then you said it, a little bit of a grab bag of teams off to really good starts. I love to see the Waconia Wildcats in at 11. They had a really young team a year ago. They're young again this year, and 4-0, really good start for that program.
We'll move now to the Class AA boys rankings, and again, some movement here, but the top 3 does say the same. Minnetonka and Wayzata remain unbeaten. They stay at number 1 and 2. Andover at 3. The Rogers Royals picking up a massive win over the Lakeville South Cougars. They're up to number 4. Meanwhile, St. Thomas Academy makes a big jump up to number 5. And we do have 3 newcomers at 9, 10, and 11. Brandon, Grand Rapids, Stillwater, they had an upset win over Maple Grove, who fell out of this week's rankings, and the Roseau Rams at 3-0. What stands out to you here in this week's rankings?
Yeah, I think the boys are, you mentioned the girls' rankings being a little more settled after a few weeks. It's going to take some time for these boys' rankings to settle themselves out, and the back half of the top 10 really proves that. Like you said, Maple Grove, one of the top teams in preseason, they already fall out. Stillwater is in. Grand Rapids with a really good start is in. And then how about St. Thomas Academy? They got a huge win over Eastview, whom they lost to in section playoffs a year ago. They get some revenge here, and they're off to a really strong start at 5. And now let's sample some of the top network games this week on mnhockey.tv. We'll start with the girls' high school games on Tuesday night. 5 p.m. you can catch Woodbury at Stillwater, a early season big matchup in the Suburban East. We also have Grand Rapids Greenway at Rockridge up on the Iron Range on Tuesday night. And then Park Cottage Grove and Eastridge also in the Suburban East on Tuesday. Friday night up at Brainerd Little Falls, it's Moorhead taking on Brainerd Little Falls in a big section matchup there. And then the first meeting between the Skippers and the Hornets of 2022-23. Saturday at Braemar, 2 p.m. Sure to be a good one. And now we have the boys' top 5 games.
Yeah, the boys' top 5 games of the week. We'll start it out Tuesday night, Brandon, 6 p.m. Moorhead at Roseau. Always fun when those two teams collide. And then we've got a Section 2A matchup at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night, Minneapolis at Providence Academy. Of course, the Lions unbeaten so far this year. And then on Thursday, a couple good ones, Hill Murray at Wayzata. And then Rogers at Andover. All 4 of those teams ranked in our top 11 for this week. So Thursday night going to be a great night for high school hockey on the boys' side. And then a good one on Saturday afternoon. Warroad taking on Grand Rapids. We've got a special Hockey Night in Minnesota for you, matinee edition on Saturday afternoon. It'll be the Hockey Fights Cancer game from Rosemount, a South Suburban Conference matchup between the Rosemount Irish and the Lakeville North Panthers. And Brandon, whenever these two teams meet, always good matchup in the South Suburban Conference.
It is, and the South Suburban this year is pretty wide open, and these will be 2 of the top contenders, so definitely interested to see what happens in this one.
And we've got a doubleheader for you from Rosemount on Saturday for Hockey Night in Minnesota. We've got the same matchup as the girls, just over on the boys' side. This time as the Lakeville North Panthers battle the Rosemount Irish. South Suburban Conference play for Hockey Fights Cancer, and we're going to do 2-1 here today, Brandon, for the Hockey Night in Minnesota on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, a doubleheader is really exciting. I know as an announcer that's one of the best kind of days is when you get back-to-back games. So to be able to have back-to-back games on our Hockey Night in Minnesota, I think should be really, really fun and good for the viewers.
Well, make sure to check out the Overtime podcast here as part of the mnhockey.tv network. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and 11 other podcast hosting networks. Of course, an emphasis there on Minnesota high school hockey and also Minnesota professional sports. Make sure to check out the Overtime podcast.
And as always, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at mnhockeytv for the latest news and game day graphics and more. Well, that's going to do it for Inside the Bubble here this week. Thank you for joining us here on this Sunday night program. We'll be back with you here next Sunday. Until then, have a great week.